What a sudden end. But here we are. I believe, Sam, I believe we are currently not just live on our socials, but we are currently broadcasting live in Decentraland. We're going to just have a look over in Decentraland right now. There we are. Okay, so if you are seeing this right now, you can head on over to Decentraland and go over to the Web3 career world, which is 6,88. You will find us there. We're about to kick off this new workshop today, which is landing a role in Web3. Obviously, we'll dive into that, but first things first. Sam, hello. How you doing?
Good, man. I'm watching myself on the big screen
Isn't
from
it weird?
Decentraland. It is a bit strange. I feel
We're
famous.
ginormous.
Like it's like I'm a football star, I'm playing in the big game.
Exactly. Yeah, it feel very honored to be here. This is actually our very first workshop, and today we're going to be kicking off and diving everyone through how landing a role in Web3 and walking everyone through it. But I wanted to kind of dive in firstly, Sam, just to let people kind of know who you are, a bit of your background, specifically as well, and your hiring side, and how you think you're going to be able to help people land a role in Web3 today.
Yeah, sure. Very, I'd say it's very easy, but it's been a long career in this space so far. So I started out as a freelancer. So I was just freelancing, writing code, developer, probably like many of you listening, slinging code for a living. That's what I did. And then I got the bite of wanting to live the startup dream. That was really what I wanted to do, especially I was in New York at the time. So I thought I'd live the New York City dream of funding my first startup. Founded that. It was in deep tech, so AI in 2016, so really early. But then I really got into it when I moved back to London in 2017 and founded a company called Distributed that was taking freelance engineers and turning them into teams that worked on government and enterprise projects. So you can imagine that's a lot of hiring. I think I must have hired 5,000 plus engineers over that time across a wide range of skill sets, from design to people writing code to project managers, product managers, like you name it. As well as at the same time, we were building our own company. To do that, we scaled that business to 110 permanent employees in the UK, which obviously was a wide range of skill sets there. And as we grew that, you do that for a couple of thousand people, you learn a lot about hiring. You look at a lot of resumes, you look at a lot of how people stand out, how people fit, and then also how they fit into those organizations as well. So that really got me hooked on the kind of, I think these days it's being called higher tech, Paul. But back then it wasn't. It wasn't called higher tech. The higher tech space. And then as part of that, that first company, I really wanted to build on-chain resumes. That was something that I thought was the future. I've been into Bitcoin since 2012. I was really early to the space. Really enjoyed it, but my board at that company didn't see it. They didn't see the vision. They thought we should just do what we're good at and supply engineers to enterprises. It worked for us, built big business. However, I then left and I met Ignacio, the founder of Bondex, and he said to me, "Well, we're building on-chain resumes." I was like, that's amazing. I've been thinking about this problem for close to 10 years now. I finally found someone who's doing it. I need to be involved. And I originally joined as an advisor. As Paul tell you, I was supposed to work like 1 or 2 days a week just to help out and give some insight. I think my first week I worked 60 hours. I was so into it, I couldn't help myself. That was just over a year ago. And since then, we've been growing and building the company and really looking to solve that age-old problem of how do we help talented individuals find their next career, their future work, the thing that makes them happy, the thing that pays their bills, grows them up, allows them to gain their skills and move on up in the world. And that's what I've been thinking about for, 12 years now across multiple companies.
Amazing. I think your first thing you did with this when you first came in, and let me just check, we're still streaming live. There we are, Sam. We're still live. So a good reminder, guys, please go join us live in Decentraland. Ask questions in the chat. But I was going to say there, Sam, one of the things, I think the first projects you helped us with was how do we integrate Web3 careers into the Bondex ecosystem and our approach to that. So that kind of brings us to this point. It's a nice segue. Where today we are really aiming to answer the question that a lot of people have is, landing a role in Web3, how the heck do I do that? So I feel like this is something where if we can actually help this today, we're actually going to be able to really help people on this role. Sam, you've got so much experience here that I think is going to be really valuable. So let's just dive in. So first and foremost, I'll remind everyone again, please come join us here in Decentraland 6,88. A little special thing is we are running a bit of a fantastic competition here where if you take a screenshot and paste it in our Discord channel, you'll get 100 BDXN. So if you turn up right now, take a screenshot, paste it in our Discord channel, we're going to share with you 100 BDXN, and make sure that you're in the only way you can do that is if you're also a verified bonding. So you'll have to make sure that you've got the Bondex app as well, but please go ahead and do that. Let's dive into it, Sam. A couple more announcements. At the end of this, we're going to open for some Q&A. So if you have questions, you have to be able to put them in the chat. So the chat you'll see at the bottom right-hand side here in DCL World. So put them in there. And then our friend David is going to curate all those questions and then share them with us afterwards. So do ask your questions there as well. And next on here. Okay, great. I want to start big picture. What makes us have a right to talk about this? And I think this kind of should help people. So Bondex, we are an ecosystem that we're really focused around the future of work. And as part of our ecosystem, we have 1.5 million job seekers every month come through one of our web assets. So you'll know Web3 Career, you'll know Remote 3 and Bondex Jobs as well. And we really believe that the way people find jobs and get discovered is changing. And we really want to help people. But we've been looking at this problem for a while around, is there a better way to get people into jobs? Is there a more efficient way? And so we want to share some tips and tricks. By the end of this, we hope that you'll leave with a really clear sense of better strategies to find your next role in Web3. So let's just dive straight in, Sam. This is a traditional job board. It's actually Web3 Career. It's a very traditional job board in the fact that it's just lots of jobs listed. You go through and you have a look. What is your kind of general take, Sam, in terms of the standard approach to applying for roles?
I think that, 10 years ago, even 15 years ago, this made loads of sense, right? Back in the early 90s, there was no job boards, right? You got it through the newspaper, I think, was how people used to get jobs. I mean, I got a newspaper boy left a job through there at one point in time. That was the only place you did it. And then kind of the internet came around and we were like, oh, we should put this information online and make it more accessible to people. And that happened. And then that's been true for 20 years. And no one's really looked at changing it or saying, there must be a better way. And I think that, we'll talk about it more later, but AI is forcing our hand here. We have to change. We have to change how we look for people, how we find people, as well as all of that other side of it as well. And it's high volume, low signal, right? It's everyone. What's the thing you say? Takes 100 every 100 applications, you usually get one response, something like that. Like I know that my cousins have been looking for jobs and they've been doing 500 applications, some of them. Like it's insane. And the fact that you don't expect to hear back from people is really sad. I really don't like that. That you apply and you might even do an interview and never hear back. And that doesn't really stand out very well, right? That's not how it should be. It shouldn't be like that. People put time and effort into it, into the applications, finding the right job, and nothing happens on the other side of it most of the time. That's what happens there. And we want to change that. We want to make sure that we're doing better than that, and we're bringing a new way to think about that. So I think that Paul's got the main points here, especially in Web3. It's a bit more unique, right? A lot more community driven. The companies tend to be much smaller, which means that they are not so precise about what they're looking for, which gives you an opportunity as a candidate. Where previously, if you're applying to a big bank or something, they'll be really specific about what they want because you're probably one of 500 people with the same role in that bank. But at Web3, companies are smaller and they tend to be more flexible and more looking for people who are genuinely interested in what they're building. I don't think anyone wakes up in the morning and goes, I really love Citibank and that's my dream is to be a Citibanker. I don't think anyone does that. However, people might wake up and say, hey, I really want to be involved in DeFi and I want to build the next protocol of, the future of finance. I want to be a part of that. And that's what companies are looking for, especially in Web3. And that's maybe a big change if you're coming from the Web2 world, where I don't think most companies ask, why are you passionate about this? Because they kind of know you'd probably be lying if you were passionate about, I once had a friend who worked for a company that supplied all of the cheese for Subway. And I'm not sure I'd be able to pitch that I was passionate about cheese for Subway when I was in an interview. However, in Web3, the expectation is you are passionate because it's the future. It's, we're building it now, and you're going to be a part of that. So that's the difference. Be passionate about it. And to be passionate, you have to know, do your research, not just apply for any job out there, but really think about, why do I want to work for this company? Why do I want to be a part of building this particular piece of the future? That's the biggest piece there. I ask this question when I interview people for Bondex. I'm always like, why Bondex? What makes us interesting to you?
Really good. And let me just jump on that second point. So the first point there is, there's going to be lots of options when you first start looking for roles. Make sure you know what it is you're applying for, and it's actually something that you want to apply for. And the second point here we've had down is, when it comes to hiring, there's so much better approaches than just clicking apply. If you do click apply, fantastic, good luck. But I think what you'll see as we kind of go through this presentation is really just how much noise that you're up against. You really the odds are stacked against you in kind of trying to find that next role. And so this next tip here is, direct access is always a DM of a hiring manager. And so always leverage, those mutual connections, whether it's through Twitter or mutual connections on Farcaster or LinkedIn, whatever platform, and try to find someone who may know someone who works there, and to get that warmer intro, because again, you're going to be struggling to kind of stand out. And then, a hot topic here, Sam, we've put it down, but using cover letters to show that you actually engage with the system. This is, I guess, I see it more as an opportunity, cover letters, to allow a candidate to actually create a genuinely interested, a genuinely authentic intent to want to work at the company. How do you see cover letters? Are they kind of redundant now? Should people kind of worry about them?
I think that cover letter is maybe the wrong word. Maybe an old word, right? Because I receive a lot of cover letters, and almost all of them are perfect because you run it through ChatGPT or Claude or one of the big AI programs, and it can give you the perfect cover letter. So it doesn't matter anymore in that sense. However, things that I have received, I don't know if you ever received any of this support in marketing, but I once received someone who took our brand at one of my previous firms and annotated what they would change and why they thought this was better. And that was incredible to me. That person got the interview. Like they didn't end up getting the job, actually, because there was another candidate came through, but they got through the first stage. I was like, oh, this is really interesting. This is really cool. I once had someone who spotted a flaw in our in one of the in our website in the code, and they commented it to us. And actually, there's a very famous story about Apple doing this, where Apple once hid a secret in their source code, and if you found it, you could apply for a job. And there's a bunch of companies out there that have done that over the years. Now that's obviously very specific to engineering, but whatever role you are, like if you're a sales, like in sales, really interesting, right? You might say, hey, I see you guys putting out content in this direction. And I would guess this is your ICP. This is what I would change. This is what I would bring, and give some opinion, right? Give some opinion about it. And if you are giving a ChatGPT opinion, we'll be able to see through it. We spend all day thinking about our business and how we help people find more jobs. Humans are unique, and maybe one of the most interesting, I saw this online the other day, which was AI brings everything to the median, like it brings it to the middle. It brings it to the most average approach, which is brilliant for getting you off the ground. However, it's not going to help you stand out. So from there, like what you want to do is maybe use that, but then add your own flavor to it. Annotate it, put a little bit of effort in. That helps you stand out a lot.
Totally. And Sam, I feel like you're fast forwarding on some of our slides here, so I'm gonna because we get some really solid points. And yeah, I totally agree with you that a cover letter, it's essentially a signal. And when you're getting an average response rate, like you said, about 2% is the average response rate we see from candidates, which is a huge pain point. So many people I put so much time and effort into this application, into this cover letter, yet I hear nothing. You do that once, you do it again, you do it again. If it happens then, you're like, I'm not going to do this anymore. It's just a waste of time. So it can actually be it's a real pain point we have is, a really poor response rate. And what we have is a very concerning system breakdown. And Sam, I did want to stop you mid-flow there because you were really touching on this, which is the perfect CV, the perfect cover letter, the perfect candidate on paper. This is breaking, and I think like this last 12 months we've really seen it come to the surface, especially with how prolific GPTs are now. Like everyone knows how to use ChatGPT or Claude. Everyone is now pushing their CV through it. Everyone is creating a cover letter. This is the job, this is the job spec, write me a cover letter, and here's my CV. Like people, it's pretty simple now. People know what they're doing. And there is this now, we're seeing thousands of applications now for single roles that on paper look absolutely perfect. And if you're the poor person who has manually handcrafted your CV and written the most thoughtful cover letter, there's a good chance, unless you have a really good hiring manager and very diligent, that your CV will be missed. But talk me through this problem, Sam. This is a huge breakdown that we're seeing over this last 12 months. That's really going to affect people finding roles.
Yeah, it's a war of attrition, right? It's, the CV gets better, and then on the hiring side, the ATS gets better at matching them or filtering them, and then they get better, and it just keeps happening. Like it just keeps going up. And I think it's really interesting, Paul, you said about how people put loads of time into a CV. Say you've made a handcrafted one, like, and you put it together, and you send it in and hit apply. Maybe one way to think about that is, if I've put 2 hours into making my resume, and putting it in, and then I click apply and I'm kind of done, I'm always doing myself a disservice by not reaching out on LinkedIn or a DM on Twitter or finding the community they're in, especially for Web3, where, pretty much every Web3 company has a Discord, or some way to interact, or it's a Telegram channel. There is some way to interact with them and say, hey, I've sent you my resume. And now there is a line here, which is, don't DM someone every day telling them this. That will just put you on the list of, I'm just not going to deal with this guy because I don't want to anymore. That's not going to work. But what you do need to do is find a way to talk to them. And maybe the easiest thing is to add value to stand out. Like say, hey, again, here's my resume. This is the baseline. I've achieved the baseline. And what most Web3 companies are looking for, what any company really is looking for, is I don't want the baseline. I want the exceptional. I want to hire the best of the best. I want to hire the really interesting people who are really passionate about something, or really into it. And those people, they don't just hit apply and leave it alone. They do more than that. They do because they want to do more. And that's how you stand out. And I think that, as much as, your parents might have told you, hey, yeah, apply for a job and you'll get one. That might have been true, 40 years ago when your parents last looked for a job. But that's not true today. The world's changed. And that means you have to change. And your approach and the way you do it has to change. And AI has only increased that. As much as it's made it easier to make the perfect resume, as you've talked about, it's also made the companies have easier way to filter it out. So you've almost just netted to zero. If we're back at square one.
Yeah. Sounds a bit like, Sam, what you're saying is you need to build your signal, which is, and we'll dive into all these ways around building signal, because I think this is one of the most interesting points. AI is really breaking the system. And here we are. Look at this, guys. Just want to quickly show us. We're still live in Web3 career. In the Web3 career world in Decentraland. Give us a dance if you are on camera. Well, there we go. We can see we've got J King, we've got Laura Ish, we've got MK Dragon. Thanks so much, guys, for joining. We're going to keep going here with this building your signal. Sam, you gave some absolute golden nuggets there, because a lot of these CVs, like you say, are getting put straight in the bin. Being filtered out by AIs, being generated by AIs. We're having North Korean actors, a bulk apply for millions of roles and millions of candidates. And we're having now AI people show up on job interviews as avatars, or people reading from AI scripts and, that give live answers to the questions that they're being asked live on camera. So it's getting harder and harder and harder, right, to actually stand out, cut through the noise, and get hired, because you're up against it. You're up against a lot of AI, and the system's really highlighting it. Now, you spoke a lot there, Sam, about ways to add value and create signal, and I want to dive into more of those. You touched on a few already, and one of them I've called out straight away, which is the ways to, just before you even apply for a job, This is my Twitter. I've got nearly every single Twitter account has this little, message button. And the amount of people in Web3 who are just so open just to chatting to people on a DM, this is the weirdest industry for it, in that not many other industries are this open. But if you are in the Web3 world, you check your Twitter DMs and you respond to them. And one of the worst DMs you could ever send is, "Hey, are you hiring right now?" Or, "Hey, I just applied for the job. It'd be great if you could hire me." Right? So dull, so boring. Sam, those examples you gave before were awesome, which is, people reaching out, actually creating value even before the job's done, actually sending a signal. For me, this is the new cover letter, by the way. And before you dive in, Sam, because I want to hear some more examples. I was once working as a contractor. I loved this one company so much that I just ended up just voice noting the CEO saying, "Hey, I love this company. Here are a bunch of ideas that I think you would be awesome for you to start implementing. Let me know if I can come in and even just have a deeper look." Ended up coming in. I ended up doing a contract with them for 4 months. It was fantastic. I had a great time. And that was just because, that wasn't a job I was looking for. I just really loved the company. The DMs are always open. Sam, I'm going to pause here and let you jump in, because I know that you've got a lot more, you've seen some more cooler examples here.
Yeah, it's the DMs thing is really interesting because having worked in Web 2 world for a long time, my DMs were never open in Web 2 world. I never read them, I've never looked at them. But in Web 3, I get messages from people on Telegram, on Twitter, all kinds of places. Honestly, the weirder place you find me, the more likely you are for me to respond. And I'll give an example of, it's not exactly for hiring, but it is a sales example where years ago, to get one of my companies off the ground, we figured out that you could message people through the WeWork app and it would open a push notification on their phone. So, I sat there every day for 8-9 hours every evening, and morning, DMing everyone on the WeWork app because I knew it sent them a push notification. For that particular company, just to give a reference for how good that was for us, we did our first year when I was doing that, we did over £500,000 in revenue just off of that. And we had 40 different customers in 26 countries. And that was just because I went, everyone else is DMing people on LinkedIn. Forget that. No one's even going to look. How do I find somewhere else where they're hanging out, where they're going to see, and I'm going to message them over there? And you can take that exact approach. And it was sweaty. I'm not going to lie. It was tiring. My wife watched me sit there every evening on my phone, DMing people on the WeWork app whilst you watch TV. Because I was like, look, if you want a job, if you're looking to get into a career, you've got to put in the effort. And for then, I was doing sales for my company. I was trying to get my company off the ground, trying to get that first money in the door. And honestly, the sweatiest thing you can do is probably the right thing to do, because people aren't going to do that, right? If you think about talking about that kind of being above the average, being above the middle, people in the middle, they don't sweat. They're not trying. They're not putting in the effort. And you've got to be smart about it, right? You've got to not just, DM people endlessly on LinkedIn. That's not going to work. You've got to think of a little bit outside the box. Where are people going? What are they doing? How do I add value? Yeah. I think that's the best example out there for that. And you can go into the physical world, or even on stuff like Decentraland, right? You can go to lunches, go to dinners, go to events, especially for Web3. There's so many events. Every city, or in a city, every town has events for Web3 every week. That's how I got into Web3. When I left my Web2 company, I was like, I want to go work in Web3. I want to be part of the future. I just started going to free events because and having chats with people, and slowly just moved around, met enough people, got invited to different private events. And then from there is where I met Ignacio, the founder of Bondex. Because it was sweaty. I was out 2 or 3 days a week at events, meeting people, chatting, trying to provide value and give insight into their businesses. And we talk about ideas. I was doing anything I could. I wasn't even really looking for a job. I just really wanted to be in the industry. And I was just trying to find out what was hot, what was interesting.
Really good. I love that. Essentially, when in those conversations, what you're doing is you're then taking time to think into the problems that person is solving, and you come up with ideas there straight away. Which again, I think we've put down here. Contributions open doors faster than credentials. I think this is massive, and probably one of the most underused kind of hacks in terms of finding those next roles, which are when you're actually looking at a company that you want to work with or want to work for. and you then go find that person who's maybe the hiring manager that you want to work with. Say you're a marketer, right? Doing like a quick breakdown. Hey, I just did a quick breakdown of your messaging on your website. Here are just a few thoughts that I'd love to have. Happy to have an extra thing. Happy to have a quick chat and to talk through it. You're not even saying that you're applying for the role. You're just saying, hey, I've spotted these things. If you're an engineer, you do the same around the code. I examined some of the code on GitHub and made I forked it over here. And if you're a sales guy, it's like coming, hey, been looking at these sales thing. I've looking at these other ways. Here's a pitch deck I've made. Just anything, something that you can spend if you really want the job, and that job's going to pay you a good amount. Can you afford to spend 15, 30 minutes just ideating, putting some thoughts down? And then when you do show up for that, like, how do you make it hyper personal and all the rest? And for me, voice notes, winner, looms, absolute win. Put your face out there, and I'll come on to that later. But like, don't just send a generic voice note to a Google Drive link. I think there's so many cool things you can do here. And you know what? Everyone who's ever hired someone will always tell you will remember the people who showed up with value first and contributed first, because it's so rare that those people always stand out. So I think for me, it's one of my favorite tips, is create value, share it with the company or the person that you want to actually work with. And whether that's in a meet in real life, showing up and having those conversations, ideating on their behalf, trying to solve their problems, wrestle with it. Or if it's just totally cold, showing up in their DMs, being like, hey, I've been thinking about a problem that you've also been thinking about. Here's my approach. Here's my solution. What do you think? And that will, I guarantee, start a conversation. I'm going to flip to the next slide here, because this for me is another way, which is, essentially what we want to do is think about signals. If the traditional signal is becoming weaker and weaker of here's my CV and here's my application, what are these new signals? So we just spoke about the first one, which is showing up, creating value. But there's another signal, which is this idea of like, what can you do that is on chain, that kind of will always be attached to you? And so that's why I love Decentraland. Let me just give you guys a quick shout out again. Oh, look at this. This is great. We've got Jay Kring still here. We've got Karasama, we've got Ryumi. It's great to see some of the Bondex people there. We've got Bay. Fantastic. Hello, Bay. Really cool. So guys, thanks so much for joining us. We'll keep going on this workshop. But one of the things we love about blockchain technology is that it creates an irrefutable record of the work that you've done, the communities that you're a part of, and the experiences that you've had. And so being part of a community like Decentraland or in these things, that creates a bit of a breadcrumb in terms of who you are, what you've done, the worlds you've created. It's on-chain and it's assigned to you. And for me, this is something that is really, really interesting around how blockchain can actually start helping people show up and get discoverable, because it actually allows them to create a breadcrumb trail of work and a breadcrumb trail of, hey, I'm part of this community. I'm really interested in this. I'll pause there. Sam, what's your kind of take here on kind of on-chain communities when it comes to finding roles?
I'll be really quick on this one. I'm really excited for the day when someone applies for a job to work with us and they send through their wallet address and they have a DCL Web3 jacket on there, or the trousers. Yeah, that's what I'm excited for. I think that would be awesome. Yeah, I'm a huge philosophical believer in blockchain technology and how it's always moving forward, and that once you put it on there, it's there forever. And obviously we've at Web3 Career at Bondex, we've got a huge year planned in terms of bringing more data on chain to make not only for you to be able to stand out, but for you to be able to stand out against the people who are trying to fake what they're doing, right? Yeah. Make sure it's real, make sure it's truthful, and give it a reputation, so it's maybe one of our favorite words. And from there, like, that encapsulates so much more than just what it's being done today. But I'm really excited for that. But yeah, one day when someone applies with a jacket and it's on their profile, they'll be really excited.
Yeah, it'd be so good, right? And I think, like, for us, this engagement that we have with Bondex, Web3 Career, and Decentraland, we really want to go further, right? How does that actually show up in a talent pool type feel? which does actually become our next slide, Sam. Here we go. So we really believe in this idea of how do you become discoverable. So we've touched on a few things so far. We've touched on the traditional approach, the generating signal, but then there's a whole area now around, well, you've maybe done the traditional approach, you've generated some signals. How do you then actually become discoverable? And that's where we want to touch on, a key part that we believe in is talent pools. And by adding yourself to a talent pool, going to where people are already looking for talent and making sure that you are discoverable on those platforms is a fantastic thing to do. If you don't do it, in my opinion, it's a silly thing. If you want to get a job and you don't have a LinkedIn profile, you drastically reduce your scope. If you want to work in Web3 and you don't have a Bondex profile, we believe you drastically reduce your chances of being discovered. We've all had DMs on LinkedIn from recruiters saying, hey, do you fancy this role? And what we're building with Bondex is a Web3 first profile that is used by companies to help find and source the best talent. And we're allowing you to connect your NFTs, your GitHub history, to verify your profiles. And we believe that the way that AI is working at the moment, that the current approach to CVs is broken. We're going to bring in a lot more features to allow you to verify not just who you are, not just your socials, but also your work history. That's a bit of alpha. It's launching soon. But by joining Bondex, you're actually joining a talent pool. And we've named some other ones here. We're big fans of Talent Protocol. If you're a developer, they do a fantastic job of helping developers get discovered. With Wellfound as well, that's very much like a SaaS company. If you're getting a strong profile on there. But if you're not discoverable and if you've not created an optimized profile, you're kind of missing out. And Sam, I don't know if you want to touch on any of those points there.
The only thing I'll touch on is that in the past, past 10 years, all you've heard from people is build your personal brand, and that's how you get discovered. And the problem is everyone has a personal brand now. It's a bit saturated. And most of those personal brands are, at the very best, fake it till you make it, and mostly just fake it. And what we were doing here at Talent Pools is turning that into a real thing, and it doesn't get saturated. You're discoverable based on what you've actually done, what you've actually achieved, what you're actually involved in, and what you're really passionate about. That's what it's really about for us. That's what the next 10 years looks like, in our opinion, at least 10 years, if not more.
Yeah, it's a big shift. I think the big shift that we believe where the job market's going, and especially it's getting faster and faster, is we don't believe the future holds a world where you apply for a job. We believe that the future is you'll be discovered. But currently that isn't possible because your CV can say anything. I can pretend I'm the CEO of Decentraland, right? And hey, some people might believe me, but I'm not. And I feel like what we say is one thing, but how can we trust that? And so that's what we're determined to build out as Bondex, where you're actually going to be able to go in and verify very soon all your work history, all your all your claims that you've made. And we're also going to surface all your on-chain credentials, such as what are the wearables that you own? What are the level unlocks that you've got on Decentraland? What are the things that you've been doing that can actually create signals that can surface you to people who are looking for talent? So we really believe that the future is signal-based, that the future is discovery-based. And so if I was looking for a role right now, I would be focused on generating signal and making sure I am discovered. And if you are interested in that, then next month, we have a workshop. We've called it CV Teardown just because it was a shorter title and professional profile on LinkedIn or Bondex. We want to do teardowns of your profile. So if you have a LinkedIn, if you have a Bondex profile, even better, because then you can surface all your on-chain activity and bring it all in as one and get discovered for the next Web3 job. We want to help you get discovered. We're bringing in hype talent. They're one of the main, if not the number one recruiter in this space. So make sure you join the next workshop. It's going to happen in a month's time. But keeping going on this becoming discoverable, one of the other things that we think is really interesting is public learning and kind of things that you can do to be discovered. So you can be discovered by high intent users like recruiters by being part of talent pool. But passively, we believe this idea of actually publicly putting out what you're working on, what you're doing, is also really interesting from a point of view of you could discover it potentially more by your peers and by those around you. Sam, do you have any perspective on this?
Yes, I do actually. Not on Twitter because you'll recognize I have tweet about once every four
I did.
years.
Yeah, I did.
But Reddit, however, if you find my Reddit account, Paul, which you might have a look around for, you'll see that I spend a lot of time posting on the business subreddits, the startup subreddits. I'm quite a big contributor on there. I like to pass the advice that I've learned or the lessons that I've been burned by and the blood I've shed to learn those on there. And it's really interesting. I spent a couple of years building up an account, posting on there. And every day almost I get DMs from people asking specific questions or, hey, you mentioned this, can you dig into it more? I'd like to, would you do a call? I think in 2024 I did 200 deck reviews, over 200 deck reviews of people helping them raise financing for their startups. I've raised quite a lot of money in my career, so there's a somewhat of a science to it. And I just really enjoyed it. Did it for free. Just loved chatting to people, loved knowing what's going on. And you know what happened out of that? I got a lot of private investment opportunities where people would, A, I used their product and bought it, or B, if their company didn't work out, I knew I had some great people I could reach out to hire if I wanted to in the future. So it benefited for me as well, but really I was just giving away free value. And Reddit was my chosen place to do it. Twitter might be yours, or Discord, or wherever is the chosen place. But the key was I went into it just being like, look, I'm just going to get involved. I've got something to say. I want to go and say it. Now, maybe one day I'll transition that knowledge over to a different platform as well. There's even a TikTok Paul out that I had for a while. I was not very good at it, but I had a TikTok where I'd make videos of some of my business lessons.
Yeah, awesome. This is all. I'm some of these new things I didn't know. This is so good. But this is an amazing example because for so many of us that we have this, especially in the Web3 world, we focus on crypto Twitter and how to become the next thought leader in this space. But if you're deep in Reddit, then that's your channel. It's so good. I think that's one of the most interesting parts about this is that the more you can put out there that kind of speaks on your behalf, the better. You know, for me, I've really enjoyed Medium. I've could write a couple of Medium articles. I really enjoy being part of my different communities and creating content and sharing that for free. I feel like that is the way to kind of become discoverable, which is create like great content that people can discover, engage, that actually creates value. And I think you will find it will really help in terms of building your network. Let's do a quick check-in again. Look at this, guys. So good. Thank you for joining us still. We really want to hear from you. We're going to have questions at the end. So any questions, pop them in the chat, or even better, join the Web3 community, which is in Decentraland. But big shout out right now. We've got VTA TV. Thank you. We've got JSS. Sam, you're also there. Thank you. So look at that. That's a funky outfit you got there, Sam. I was expecting a bit of green maybe for the Bondex. But if you have any questions around how to get hired, any best tips, pop them in the chat. We'll come to them at the end. But I want to touch on the next one now, which is an important point around crypto, which is make sure that when you are trying to land your next role, that you do your own research. There is, guys, a lot of scams. We have to just call this out. Definitely in this space, there's a lot of scams, and there's a lot of grifters, and there's a lot of rug pulls. So we've heard some really bad stories so far. Sam, I'll let you jump in at this point.
Yeah, it's one of the downsides of being in what I like to refer to as the wild, wild west of the internet. There's the upside of you can build something out of nothing and it can take off overnight, and there's the downside that you may get hit by some bandits on the road. And I think the main thing here is just be careful. Like, keep your head on, ask someone else if you're not sure, and if it feels too good to be true, it probably is. Unfortunately, at least in my life, that's always been the case. And I think that is the real thing here. Like, be careful of anyone. Yeah, you've got it on there. 100% token pay. Don't do that, please. It's just like if you have 100% commission job, they're not real jobs. Generally, they tend to be multi-level marketing schemes or something like that. There's just a crypto version of that. Unfortunately, because the crypto's move fast, break things kind of methodology and philosophy, it's attracted some of the wrong people. However, I will say that over the past few years, crypto is growing up. I'm seeing more peers of mine from Web2 who I knew who built companies or worked at big firms entering Web3. In fact, a ton of my previous employees at my last firms are in Web3 now. So it's definitely growing up. It's becoming real. in the best way possible. But there's still an edge to it, which I love. Like I hope that edge stays. I don't want it to become boring and sterile. If I wanted to do that, I'd go work in, I don't know, healthcare or something. I'm not really interested in that. I like the edge.
Shout out to Karens who work at healthcare. We love you. We're grateful for your healthcare that you provide. It's good. I love it, Sam. All right, let's keep going. You've applied, you've created a signal, you've made yourself discoverable, you've checked they're not a scam, and now it's time to nail the interview. There's some awesome tips I know that we're about to share, but I would, the first one is actually my favorite one to talk about, which is, guys, the amount of people that we've interviewed or that we hear stories that have absolutely terrible connection, terrible audio, the camera's jerky, it's like the camera's facing down here, or it's blurry, or just sort it out. Like, it doesn't, go somewhere with a good internet connection. Absolute zero. Like, number one, make sure you've got good audio. If you've got like a microphone, use it. The only experience they have of you is three. One, which is who you are, what you say, what you do. Second one is your visual, so that's your video, and the third one is your audio. So just make sure that at least you're giving yourself every advantage. If you sound like you're in an auditorium, it's super echoey or super noisy, just go somewhere quiet. All the rest. Other one, be clean, be tidy, just the basics. Don't turn up with your hoodie. And the third one, me and Sam are actually known in our company in Bondex for being on time, and it's something we're both very proud of. But I believe if you're about to sign up for an interview, being 1 minute early leaves a very different feeling to the interview hiring manager to being 1 minute late. If someone shows up 1 minute late for me, I genuinely think, cool. You're already on the back foot in my mind, because and you don't know what that hiring manager is going to be like. If they're going to be someone who values promptness like myself, you're going to have like a slight notch against your name right from the offset. But if you turn up 1 minute early, if you turn up before me, unbelievable. Sam, any thoughts?
Oh, absolutely, Paul. I mean, I know me and you have a friendly competition of who gets to meetings first, which has occasionally ended up with me being there at 59 on the hour, which joining before the meeting's even there, just to make sure I'm not late. That's how important it is to me. I think, the lighting, the background, the camera, all really important. I say this as I have boxes in my background right now. However, I'll give a tip on the presentation piece that I really enjoy, which is, have something interesting in your background if you can. Have something that's a bit about you. Like, don't be afraid. Like, sometimes people just put the blurred background on. Totally fine. I get it. You might live at your mum's house, or your kids in the background or something, right? If you can, I always find it's fun to show a little personality about yourself by what's in the background. I think it helps you stand out when we come back to the original point of this, which is, how do you stand out? How do you create signal? Don't discount visual signals as well, even if it's a remote interview. For a long time in this room, I had a Lord of the Rings poster by Dan Mumford. If you look him up, he's a great artist. In the background here, it was massive. I only got rid of it because my wife hates it. But I had that in the background, and people would comment it all the time. Oh, you like Lord of the Rings? Or I had some Lego back there. I think there's a Lego G-Wagon down there. You can't really see that. And there's Lego Concorde back there right now. I had Pokemon cards back there for some period of time. People were like, oh, it would get you talking in a more friendly way. And the real key here is, when you're interviewing, people hire people who they like more than people who have the best skills. And if I get talking to you about Pokemon cards, which is a passion of mine, I'm more likely to hire you purely based on that thing. I think I like this guy or girl. I think this person's really awesome. I think they're interesting. They have passions outside of work, and they can really talk about it. That, I think, is really underrated, and I don't see people use that enough. And I don't even see people talking about it online. Maybe I'm the only one, but it definitely makes a difference.
Yeah. And for me, it does come down to the basics. And I don't know, like, there is something so simple just about making sure you have these basics done, which really helps you just on the interview process. It's the first impression. So yeah, if you haven't got like lights, just buy a light. Or, for me, I don't have a fancy background. If I switch off this background, you would see a whiteboard that's on the floor and an ironing board. Just not, that's why I use a virtual one. But if I was doing an interview, I'd do exactly what Sam said, and just actually have a room, do something interesting, and it will just definitely help. So the next things we've got here are just a bit of prep we feel that every candidate should do, just as you're going to go for that next interview. So I just searched for Bondex. Randomly, someone just, this is, if I was about to hire, go for a role with Bondex, I would download the Bondex app. I would play with it and use it, know it. I would do the Bondex search that you've got here and just go into Google, press news and search the brand name, see what comes up. So you can see one down, you say, we've just launched in Decentraland. Super cool. And that's where we are right now. In fact, let's just check everyone's still there. Even better. More and more people keep joining. This is great. So thank you, guys. Again, remember, feel free to add any questions if you want to have any questions in here. But yeah, and if they've got a protocol, engage with it. Connect to it, play with it, and always have at least 1 to 2 questions ready to ask in the interview. Sam, any other kind of preparation style things people can do before an interview to make sure it goes well?
I mean, the questions one, I can't overstate how important that is. Like it is, if you don't ask questions in an interview, on my little scorecard that I'll use when I'm interviewing people, it's just an instant, really black mark. Like it genuinely, like it sounds so stupid, but it's such a big deal.
And I've had candidates, the first question they ask is, hey, I just want to confirm and some benefits, or it's kind of like, what do I get? I'm like, it's so, sorry, I've interrupted, Sam. It's such a basic though, not to have ready.
Yeah, especially if they're questions about the company's strategy, or if it's a startup, for example. One of the easiest questions to ask, which shows to me that you know about startups, which is, how much runway do you have? If someone doesn't ask me that, maybe not in the first interview, but definitely by the second interview, I expect people to have asked me that question. And if they haven't, I go, have they worked in a startup? Do they understand the environment? Do they know how fast these things move and what's expected? It leads to a derivative set of questions that may not have been there before. So yeah, ask questions. Just always have like 5, 10 ready to go. Like and pick out the ones that are most relevant based on what you're doing. Also, the other one you don't have on it, Paul, take notes. Always be seen to be taking notes. I know AI note takers out there and we all use them, but like if I see you like jotting down on a little post-it note or something, it's a little positive in my mind.
Sam, that is such a good hack, because you can actually write anything down, right? They're not going to be able to see notes, but just the fact, get a good pen, not a chewed off one like I'm holding at the moment, but get a good pen, write it down, nod when they say something and just write it down. It's such a small tip. But yeah, you're right. That's so true. Like people do that. There's something about them that says, okay, this person is clearly, very detailed, doesn't want to miss anything. Perfect. That's a great attribute to be accredited with.
Exactly. It's an accumulation of lots of small things, right? Not any of these one things is going to swing it either way. But if you do, 10 good points, it builds up in interviewers' minds, especially if you like me, myself and Paul, who are interviewing. Sometimes I might interview 10 people a week for a role, even more. And when we were recently hiring, I was doing 50 interviews. Like it just builds up. Those little things just stand out when I'm taking my notes after my call about each candidate, and I'm putting that to what I'm not comparing them I might not be comparing candidates for 2 weeks. I might do 2 weeks of interviews and then be running back through my notes to see who to move forward. Like don't assume it happens later that day, because it doesn't. You've got to do things that stand out over time as well.
Yeah, so true. I think, in the recruitment world, they call it hygiene factors. So what's and this just is one of those ones where it's as basic as washing your hands after you've been to the toilet. You just should do these things. You should do, like, if you don't do them, it's just a basic hygiene. And then I think we're going to move into, once you actually get to the interview itself. And for me, the big thing with interviews is that you're most likely, let me just actually dive into here. I'll dive into 3 pillars rule. But one of the things that I think is really important, even before you think about what you're saying, which is this concept here, I think one of the things a lot of people miss is understanding that this person that you're speaking to is most likely spoken to 2 or 3 people previously than you. So like, maybe just come off the back of a few calls. And your energy that you bring is probably one of the most important things. So what is your tone? And sometimes, me and Sam have both spoke to candidates where they come on the call and it's like they don't want to be there. So first and foremost, bring an energy that makes it very clear you're glad to be here and you want to be here. If you're just murmuring, murmuring, and just like blasé, and great, probably not a thing. But if you're just saying, hey, I want to be here with your energy and how your stance, that's a big win. Anyway, 3 pillars. This one I really like. It actually came from my wife. She loves it, which is she's a headhunter, so she works with very executive type people. And she said, most people when they leave an interview from a hiring manager point of view, what they'll remember is probably 2 or 3 things, and that will kind of form their concept. So why don't you reverse engineer that with every time you go into a role or into an interview, and actually think to yourself, what are the 3 things I want this person to walk away from about me? So an example here would be, okay, that I'm very proactive, that I'm a high achiever, and I'm very easy to work with. Those might be 3 things. You could choose whichever you feel resonate the most with you. And then in that response for every question, regardless of what it is, there's always a way to bring the angle into one of those 3 things. And it's a way as well to simplify, hey, like, these are the 3 things I want them to leave knowing. And it might actually be a specific thing of like this specific achievement. And you might want to make sure that when they leave that call with you, they know that you did this, or they know that you are this type of person. And so that you have a good confidence after the interview that, hey, like, they'll remember these 3 things. What's your thoughts on this one, Sam? And anything else that you'd add about the interview itself?
I think these pillars are really good. They capture the whole piece really of it. And your wife is definitely correct. People don't remember everything; they remember bits and pieces, and things that stand out. And I guess that's think of standing out as creating that signal, as we started off this with on the first or second slide. That signal could be in a variety of ways and across many different things. And especially in the interview, right? You got to think of it. This is your chance. You are Taylor Swift on stage. You are the one performing, and you are the one that they makes a memorable experience for the interviewer. It's if you get on there and you're whispering in the corner and don't seem interested, they're going to remember that, and not for the right reasons. But if you put on a performance, like I'll use Taylor Swift as an example. Went to her concert; it's amazing. You should, when she tours again, you should all go. But like it's a memorable experience. You look back and you go, man, that was incredible. And that's what she puts on a show. And as an interviewee, you should put on a show, like put on your best self, right? The best version of yourself, the very best thing you can do. Be passionate, be alert, engaging, as charismatic as you can. I mean, this is true across all roles, even engineers, right? I've hired thousands of engineers, and no one thinks of engineers as performers, but the best engineers are the ones who can retranslate, what they've written in code or how they've approached things to actual humans, right? That's a huge difference, especially when you're getting into the more senior roles. That's what absolutely separates a mid-level to a senior to a VP or a head of engineering is that ability to translate. Very specific there, but it applies across a lot of different roles.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. I think one of the last things I'll just add on this, and then we'll move on to kind of those last steps. I will add that when you're being asked a question in any interview, they are, in my perspective, most questions are not seeking the right answer, which is where a lot of people go wrong. Of like, I want to make sure I'm seeing the right answer. Most questions are trying to understand how you think, the way you see the world, and your perspective. And even better if that has been tried and tested. So when questions are coming up, I think also channeling it through that, which is, this is an opportunity to present a framework that I see the world in. Is there a tangible example I can attach to this framework, and can I tell a story and help kind of bring that to life in some degree? So I'm always amazed when you ask questions of a candidate and it's more theoretical. They just give you a theory. They won't show an example of they've done something, or they won't even bring something unique, a unique perspective to the thing, to the conversation. That's what we want. We don't want to work with people who think the same of us, as like, we don't want to work in a homogeny, in a total, we all think the same. We want to work with interesting people who develop interesting perspectives to make the work that we do even better. And I think, if you're being asked a question, don't just regurgitate, quote unquote, the right answer. Just think about your own. See it as an opportunity to present your own framework and connect it, to something that you've actually done in the past.
I would just add to that, Paul. It's a great point. Don't limit your responses to just what you've done at work. If you have something from your personal life or a hobby or something you're interested in that can directly relate, especially when it's things like team leading, team building, being part of it, especially anything like that, relate it outside of work, show a little bit of personality. It's just look for opportunities to approach it from a slightly different angle, especially those open-ended questions, which are my favorite ones to ask.
Come on. So don't forget, you've done the interview, you've had a great time, send them a follow-up message. You would not believe, this is again just hygiene, which is, it doesn't have to be long, just include two things. Thank them for the time, and then mention something that you enjoyed about the convo, and then say, hey, I'm here for anything you need, next steps. It's so basic. It's just so basic, but you would not believe the amount of people who don't do this. And by not doing it, you're just missing an opportunity. Again, you're up often against 20, 30 candidates. If it's the first round, you just want to make sure that you stand out and you got something there. Anything else to add on that one, Sam?
I'll add the pro version of this one. Like if you want to add a little bit extra after the call, send a link to something interesting based on what you discussed, or hey, I found this article that's related to what we discussed. I mean, that's the pro version. If you really want to stand out, do that.
Outrageous, Sam. That is outrageous. The level of alpha that we're sharing right now with the Decentraland community, who are still here. We got Katara waving their flag. We love that. We've got multi NFT. We've got Sam. You're still moving around. How are you moving around, Sam? Outrageous. And Kara Sama, guys, so good. And let's just go through and wrap this up. So, don't think we've had any questions come through. So unless I'm wrong, David, I'm just checking. No questions come through in the chat. Last chance, guys, to add any questions. But if not, we're going to go and let's just wrap this up. So we really believe the future is that you'll be discovered. So we do believe in some sense, stop applying, get discovered instead. That's what we're building with Bondex. So please, an action you can take today is to go ahead and create your Bondex profile, get added to the largest talent pool in Web3, used by the world's top companies to find their next talent. So do go ahead, create your profile, increase your reputation. Sign up, guys, for the next workshop, which is going to be the CV teardown or the professional profile teardown with Hype Agency. That's going to be a really good one in a month's time. And by that time, that'll give you plenty of time to build that Bondex profile, to connect all your NFTs, connect your wallet, to get that reputation score up. And then we'll do a live teardown in Decentraland. And also, do not forget to claim your exclusive wearable. There's only 1,000 available. So we want to make sure that you can look as cool as our friend here, Mr. Web3 Career, who's ready to go. And we've got tops, we've got bottoms, we've got everything ready. So please go ahead, claim your wearables in this world. And here we go. How do I get a job as a fresher? I don't know what a fresher is. Do you know? Do you know what a fresher is, Sam?
You're not very British, Paul. A fresher
do you mean like a university fresher?
A fresh graduate, I'm gonna guess, right. or first year in uni as well.
Okay.
Come on, Paul. You're
I was thinking, is this okay? Yeah, I understand. I'm with this. Okay, great. How do I get a job as a fresher? Sam, take it away then.
I think the first thing, get involved, and it's the great thing about Web3, right? You can get involved and show that you can show your skills. Like one of the things you'll find really hard when you first graduate school, or even in school, is people ask, well, you haven't done anything. It's all theoretical in your mind, right? Yeah. You've learned it at school, but you haven't applied it. If you're doing something like computer science, most of the stuff you learn is decades out of date by the time you learn it. And every hiring person knows that. The best thing you can do, work on a side project, build something, and be able to show that off. Because then that shows, hey, not only have I learned the theory at school and gotten the degree and paperwork that says I know it, I've also applied it. And I can show you where I've applied it. I can show you how I've done it. That is by far the best thing you can do.
Yeah, signal over noise. And I think a lot of uni students, they often rely on the fact that once I achieve this certification and somebody else stamps their authority on me that, hey, like this person has passed whatever degree it is and has a certain level, then the doors will fly open. And I think you're going to quickly realize they're not. And that's where university is the best place to actually generate new signals, whether that's with new communities that you join, projects that you work with people on together, relationships and friendships that can really help expose you to new ideas, new networks. That for me is one of the biggest benefits of university. And you have a bonus of a certification that will, for some jobs they require it. For others, it's they don't. They just want life experience. So I would say you see university as an option to generate these new signals, and then make sure that you are, make sure that you are making full advantage of everything it's got to offer, not just the academic side. So let's just wrap it up there. We are on the hour exactly. I just want to say a huge thank you to our Decentraland community. Please go ahead and join the Web3 career community. It's so cool seeing our face on the big screen there. And guys, until next month, we will leave it there. Any final thoughts, Sam? Any final words?
No, it's been great to talk to you all. Hopefully some useful tips and things for you guys to work on. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys at future ones.
Lovely. All right, guys, thank you all so much. And we will see you in a month's time at the next workshop, and enjoy the Web3 career right here in Decentraland. Thank you, guys.